Martindale to go over due to recent events, and Ms. Paul's here. Thank goodness that she can be attending tonight to help us with this. You already click it. So with that, I'm going to have a roll call, then we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance, then we're going to have a public comment. So any of those you who've signed up, we'll call your name and you get to have 3 minutes to address activities. Typically we hold this to a limit of 10 people, but since tonight's meeting is specifically to address this one issue, we'll take all comers. So if you haven't already signed up and you want to make a public comment, please do so. We'll take those in the orders that they were signed up in. You will be held at the 3-minute limit. The timer will go off at the 2 minutes and 50 seconds. So to give you so when you hear the little noise, you'll know that you need to wrap things up. We will try to give everybody an opportunity to talk. Again, this is the typical city council kind of public comments, so you won't get a lot of interaction with the city council. The reason for that, of course, is to give you the full 3 minutes to say what you need to go say. 3 minutes, not a lot of time, so please be succinct with whatever you want to tell us about. And what we're looking for tonight, of course, is suggestions and comments on how we can go improve our animal control within the city of Martindale. So with that, let's call roll. Mayor Pro Tem Paul.
Here.
Thank goodness.
Thank you.
Councilmember Villalobos.
Here.
Councilmember Allen.
Here.
Councilmember McLeod.
Here.
Councilmember Bunker.
Here.
And Mayor Devaney is present. With that, please rise, stand, and to say the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. So with that, let us begin.
Can I make a comment
Yes,
before we start?
Yes, ma'am.
Before is that legal?
I suppose it depends on what it is, I guess.
I'm a citizen. I can do it in 3 minutes.
All right, do it.
First of all, I can't do this without crying. So I'm sorry. I just want to thank all of y'all for all your support and everybody that's come to see me and the support that you've given me. It was horrific. I don't want anyone else to ever have this happen to them. We have to have enforcement. We have to come to consensus on how strong our enforcement needs to be. We need to have a consensus on what it is, and everybody needs to know how to report. Verbal or written, everything needs to be on the table before we leave tonight, what you want. And we need to make it very clear. And if you have any questions for me, I live at 302 Main Street. Please come by and visit. I love visitors. I don't run them off, so my husband will have to run you off. So thank you all so much.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, with that, the first person up is Patricia Matthews. Is she here?
I am.
Have at it, and your 2 minutes is two and a half. 2 minutes and 50 seconds.
Okay, I need more
Starts
than that, and I hope people who are going to give me their minutes.
now.
Didn't know we could do that. I wish we could.
Are you going to be able to keep track of that? Who's giving who the minutes?
Yes, that's why we have.
Okay.
You're on.
Okay.
Your clock's ready.
Okay, my primary goal in speaking today is to encourage change to our current ordinance. I'm sure everyone has read the current ordinance. It would just be a simple removal of the word or, where it says and or. That would clarify it, it would make it a usable ordinance that could be enforced. Additionally, I'd like to establish a history and pattern of inaction towards free-roaming dogs. My intention isn't to point fingers, but to stick to the facts with integrity and clarity. Therefore, I will only use names that have already been made public and refrain from using names of individuals who have not explicitly given me permission to do so. We moved to Martindale 4.5 years ago, and we were alarmed at the amount of free roaming dogs. We talked to folks about it to try to find out why this was the case. The general feedback we got was that people had just accepted that this was just part of living in Martindale. Then, about a year after being here, my husband was out jogging and pushing my 2-year-old in the stroller. They were charged at and chased by a dog. My husband went into the police station to report it. They asked him to describe the dog, which he did. Their response was, "Oh, that dog, he won't hurt anyone." My husband explained that he doesn't feel safe being chased with his 2-year-old in the stroller. He asked if there was a law about dogs. The officer told him the owner only needs to be within hollering distance. My husband explained that the owner was actually nowhere in sight, to which they replied again that this dog was harmless. So we quickly came to the conclusion that all of our neighbors had already. Local law enforcement believe that there is nothing that they can do. So therefore, there's no reason to report it because no one will come and no one will help. Instead, I started carrying a big rock in the stroller to defend myself and my child. Since then, countless number of dogs have wandered into our yard. When I was pregnant with my second son, we finally had enough, so we built a fence that was secure enough that our children could play in the backyard without being charged at by dogs. When a previous mayor was in office, she also had concerns about the dogs in Martindale, and she took action to make changes. Things did improve, but it didn't last. I have read in a few articles that covered the attacks that this was an isolated event that happened without warning. I want to clarify that it was not. I also read that there is an ongoing investigation. I am not a police officer. I don't claim to know anything about police work, but the word investigation would mean that folks were gathering up as much information about the attacks and the events leading up to the attacks in order to establish a clear picture of what happened that day and why it happened. I did offer to give a statement to the sheriff. He said Officer Blank would be by to get it, but that did not happen. So I've decided to give my statement now to everyone in this room. The dogs that were responsible for the attacks on January 15th live across the street from me. They had charged at me and my children multiple times.
Miss Matthews, your time is up, but you said you had others that had signed up to give you time.
No, Wendy Jones. Whatever my time.
You're going to deliver your time? Carry on.
Okay. They had charged at me and my children multiple times, but of course we didn't report it as we knew the response would be one of dismissal and inaction. However, about a year ago when I was putting my kids in the car and the dogs came running out of the house from across the street, just like they did at Mary, a police officer was driving by. He slowed down. He slowed down as the dogs were in the driveway barking at me. He did not get out of his vehicle to help me, but he did roll down the window. I don't remember the exact words that were exchanged, but it was something to the effect, are these dogs bothering you? And I said, yes. One of the owners saw the police vehicle parked in front of the road, came out of the house, and started yelling at the dogs from across the street. The dogs did not respond to the voice commands. The officer witnessed this. I quickly got in my car since the dogs were not retreating. I drove off, so I don't know what happened when I left. However, to my knowledge, a citation was not issued, even though it was clear that the owners were not in compliance with the current ordinance. Okay, on January 15th, I pulled into my driveway a few minutes after 11 a.m., not knowing that only 10 minutes earlier Mary had been attacked and taken away. I got my 2-year-old out of the car. As we were walking into the house, I heard the dogs barking. I turned to look, and they were chasing a man on his bicycle. They knocked him over into the ditch by my house. Once he was down, they violently attacked him. He was screaming out in pain. This man was a strong and fit man, and it took all of his might to pick the dogs off. He kicked them in the mouth, and then they retreated. When I felt like it was safe for me to take my 2-year-old over there, who it would have been fatal had they attacked him, I ran over and I asked him if he was okay. I asked if he needed medical assistance. I looked him over, I checked his pupils, I listed your basic first aid check. He was bleeding from his arm, but I couldn't see any of his injuries because they were covered fully by his clothes. At that point, the sheriff drove up. I explained to him what had just happened. We asked how he got here so fast, and he let us know that this was not the first attack. So in the time between Mary's attack and then getting the dogs, this is when this occurred. He drove past, he didn't stop. He drove past us and he went over to the driveway of the owners of the dogs who lived across the street from me. He put one of the dogs into the cage in the back of the truck. The other was still running loose. He told the injured man he could go to the fire station if he needed medical assistance. The victim was limping and bleeding, so I offered him a ride. His friend lived next door, so he went there to assess his injuries. After he was inside the house, I went over to the sheriff and I let him know that I had witnessed the entire attack from beginning to end. I told him my name and showed him where I lived so they could contact me for a statement. And as I said, this didn't happen. A few days later, I went over to the house where the victim had gone for assistance. They let me know that he was okay. They also let me know that the first attack that day was actually their dog. So the order of events was their dog, then Mary, then Marcus, then the attack that I witnessed. So it was a total of 4 attacks in approximately 30 to 40 minutes span.
Okay, Miss Matthews, time's up. We need to move on to the
And
next.
I want to say there has been other chasings and dogs chasing after people since those 2 dogs were killed. Other people have been chased, including Wendy and her husband.
Okay.
Sir, she can have my time.
Well, I mean, I had more to say, but I did it.
Say it. You got 3 minutes.
Okay. Okay. Well, I brought a prop. So I purchased this recently. I just wanted to encourage others to purchase this product.
Amen.
And it's for our own protection. It's so that I can walk out on the streets and then feel okay. Like, I don't want to be afraid every time I walk out on the street. But something that I thought was good about this is that, my understanding is that it doesn't injure the dog permanently. It just burns them and then they run away. And this will encourage, if dog owners aren't going to do their part, and then this encourages them to stop coming at people. So they learn that when they run at someone, they're going to get burned, so they stop charging at people. Okay, I'm done.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Mr. Richard Solomon.
Can I do it from here?
Sure can.
Okay. First of all, I gotta tell you, I'm legally blind. This doesn't mean I can't see. And it's relevant to what I'm gonna talk about. When it's really bright, I can't see very good. When it's completely dark, I can't see. But when it's cloudy, I can. So I can see a dog in my front yard. I used to be mayor here a long time ago. And I think actually my name is on that ordinance, and it needs to be changed, and it needs to be stronger. But it needs to be enforced. When I was 16 years old, I was attacked by 3 dogs. And I was surprised how little help I got. And you're on your own. I can't imagine being attacked by these dogs that came after Mary. And on the day that it happened, I was in my house, which is only a block away or half a block away across from the fire station. I could hear screaming and yelling inside my house. So I said, what in the world is this? I talked to my 2 ladies that are cleaning my house. We walked out to the front porch and we could hear it. And Mary was screaming. How do you do, Mary? I grew up on Mary's farm for 35 years, just to let you know. Anyway, we could hear this, and in the span of 10 seconds, my 2 ladies were crying. They were like, wow, we hope we don't hear someone die. It was that bad. And having experienced a dog attack, I can tell you, it was terrifying. I've had, in recent time, a dog come up and bite me on the hand, and then, it was a small dog, so I just kicked it. And I should have reported it, but the second time it did it, it came up and got me from behind the leg, the back of the ankle. I called the Martindale PD, but I think it was a Saturday or Sunday. They referred me to Caldwell County, and in an hour, he came over there, and he talked to the neighbor and this other stuff. And he said, if it happens again, report it. I said, if it happens again, I might have to shoot it. And he said, well, you can. And he said, really? And I thought about, no, I probably want a little dog. It's not going to hurt me, but it could hurt a small child. Not too long ago, about 40 days ago, I was trying to figure out the exact time. I got up in the morning and went to my to the dumpster, and all I had was shorts on and some shoes, some house shoes. And as I ran out the door, I was almost to the dumpster, and I looked in the yard, and there's a big pit cross standing there looking at me. And I said, "Get out of here!" And it growls at me and starts coming towards me. So in a split second, I'm saying, do I run and try to get in the back of my truck? But if I slip or something, this dog's gonna be on top of me. So I slowly backed up and started getting around the porch, the fence on the porch. And as he started trying to go around, I ran to the front door and went and got my pistol. By the time I came back, he was running towards the old school. So we can change the ordinance, but there's been a lot of other attacks. There've been the lady that used to do my bills on River Road. Her dog was attacked by another big dog, and she spent a lot of money, and eventually it died also. And I understand that 2 German Shepherds also not only killed the dog over there, but they almost dismembered it. So we've had several attacks. Another person from
Richard, you need to wrap it up here, my friend.
Okay, we need to find out what's going on with the. Are we doing enforcement or not? I'm going to do a Freedom of Information Act to try to get some of this information. That ordinance has been on there for a long time. Let's see how many people have been cited. And same thing goes for the traffic going over there. How many tickets have we given?
Okay, thank you for your comments.
Thank you for being here.
Up next is Miss Elizabeth Cumberland.
Thank you very much. I can just look this way. I like to see everybody. I moved here 27 years ago. There was a dog problem then. What first was most obvious were dead dog bodies and dead cat bodies on the streets on 1979. After years of thinking somebody was going to do something about it, I decided I would. In the last 18 years, I myself have removed about 220 dogs from the east side of Martindale, not the middle, and not the north side. Okay, but the east side, and I was able to do that because I was getting help from 2 rescue groups out of Austin, Blue Dog Rescue, and then later Lovable, which is a pit bull rescue. And they would come and get the dogs from me, and they would get them adopted. In that same time period, I started a nonprofit. It's a 501c3. It's the St. Francis Group, and I think a lot of you know that we've had 4 festivals. I always hoped that everybody would participate. There were some people, I know who they were, who made substantial donations because it is costly. I had always hoped by opening up the festival to the whole town, that the whole town would participate. I think it is, I realize there's enforcement is involved. I understand that laws are important. In fact, I'm a retired attorney. But I think what is more important is where the neighborhoods work with each other, that all of us become knowledgeable about dogs, so you can tell the difference between a dog that's getting ready to bite your leg off and a dog that's trying to scare you and a dog that's scared. I mean, we all should be able to read a dog. Their fur changes, their body changes, their face, their eyes, their sound, everything about a dog that is ready to attack, either out of fear or out of aggression, changes. So we all should be able to identify those kinds of signs and work with each other and know where the dogs are. So the 240 dogs, some of those had been abandoned and had only been in Martindale for 2 or 3 days. Almost all of them had someone that was considered their owner. And we worked as a neighborhood. We talked to people. We got to know people. We know, for a while, I knew every dog. And the dogs knew me. And it's some people, I'm telling you, I think you can change your laws very quickly. And you can probably write a very good law, but it may not make any difference at all as far as public safety. If we all don't change ourselves in what we know and how we deal with it, and how we work together as a neighborhood.
Okay, Elizabeth, that time's up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is Catherine Glaze.
I love to walk around town, and I was horrified when I heard what happened to Mary. I'm the same way. I know which dogs you really have to be afraid of and which ones you can kind of not really worry about. Actually, my neighbor here, his father helped Mary a lot. His dog almost licked me to death one day, but so I know he's a good dog. But the German Shepherds are unpredictable. Most of the time they never come at you, but one time they came at me so hard that I really thought that I was going to get it, and a car came by and kind of broke their trance. So I was really grateful for that. This same dog that attacked Mary, it was just one of them, came after me one day, and thankfully the owners were there and stopped the dog. But it's terrifying when a dog comes after you, and you just feel so helpless. I do have to say, I did get bit by a dog a year ago or so, and I went to Kim Smith's house, and she and her husband helped me, and we went right away and identified the dog. The dog had bit somebody else, and that situation was taken care of right away. So I was really grateful for that. But it makes you afraid to go and walk. Now I know that that dog's not there, but it still makes me afraid. So a lot of times I go into town to the hospital to walk. I'm really looking forward to our parks getting done, where we're going to have a walking trail, where we can walk right here in town in a safer environment, where the cars won't be getting in the way, where hopefully, the dogs can be monitored better on leashes. I just think that getting the parks done is going to be a huge blessing.
Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you. All right, next up is Mr. Mudd.
All right. Mr. Mudd.
I'm Jack Mudd, and I live a little west out here on River Road, and I have two big dogs, and they're barking dogs, and they're fairly aggressive, but they're confined inside their own territory. They're bred to be guardian dogs, and that's what they are. I don't fuss at them for barking or anything. I don't think. I said think. I can't guarantee, and no one that has a dog can guarantee that he won't bite a person. Mine might bite if you come on the property. I'm going to tell you that. I've had stuff stolen around my place. One thing was a dump trailer not too long ago, a flatbed trailer, and an RV just within the last year, a brand new RV. And I like a dog that will alarm me or bark when somebody comes up or is around. But I contain my dogs. I have a fence. My dog is as big as a sheep or a goat, and that's what I have, is a goat fence. I have barbed wire that is about 4 inches apart at the bottom, and it gets bigger at the top. My largest dog is about 150 pounds, and he can't squeeze through that wire. After this happened to Mary Paul, I think I'm going to reinforce my wire, because when people come by and walk with another dog, my dogs they'll lay there and look, and a person can come by with a bicycle or walk without a dog with them. My dogs aren't alarmed. But my dogs are alarmed when there's another dog on the road. But they pretty well know their territory, and I usually keep my gate closed. My dogs don't go outside the gate, even when I leave it open. They very well know their territory. But I very seldom leave my gate open. I think Carl come in there the other day, and they followed him out. They will escort you out. You'll think they're going to turn that big old Suburban over. But when they get to the gate, they stop. Is that right?
That's right.
Well, anyway, I'm not gonna brag on my dogs because everybody here have good dogs, I'm sure. But voice control, I'm gonna tell you, that is something I would recommend to be striked on this. People think they can control their dogs by voices, but something will trigger different breeds of dogs. And when they do get triggered about something, they will not obey some. Maybe 1 out of 5 will. But there's a lot of them that won't obey voice commands.
Okay, Jack, your time's up.
Who's gonna give me the...
Good.
Thank you, Jack.
But I disagree with that. Good fences and containment.
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you, Jack. Next up is John Black.
I'm glad it's only 3 minutes, not back. I've only been here a few weeks, and I've been renting Mary Paul's little house behind there. I think the day or the day after what happened to her, I had my dog out in the back, with a leash on, and a pit bull come running up from the river at a dead run, growling and snarling. Because of past jobs I've had, I carry a gun. I have a license. And there's a young man down there with his dog, and there's 3 dogs. And I told him, I said, you better do something with the dogs or I'm going to shoot it. And to give him credit, he went running up there as fast as he could, and he got so close, I had the gun out and at the dog's head before he finally jumped him. The dog came about 5 seconds from having his brains blown. If my wife or my grandkids had been out there with me in the backyard, he would have never got that far. He would have never got that close to us because I would have shot him. I won't going to be here a couple more weeks, so I was just asked to stand up and say what happened. Now, to give credit where it's due, he did say he was sorry. And when I called the police, they went and investigated, and he admitted everything. He didn't try and lie his way out of it. He admitted everything that happened. Our stories jive just perfectly. So, you know, you give credit where credit's due, and that's what he had. But at the same time, he had 3 dogs without leashes. He had the leashes, he just didn't have them under leash. I also understand that this pit bull has a history of attacking other dogs. If I had known this dog's history, he wouldn't have got nearly as close to me and my dog as he did. What y'all doing here is up to you. I'm not going to be here after a couple of weeks. They're building me a house out here outside of town. And after that, I'm not going to be here. So it's y'all got to do what y'all got to do. So and my own personal opinion is, why would you have, the only reason you have a pit bull is you got something that you want to hide in your yard or your house. I don't know any other reason to have a pit bull, but that's not the purpose here, or any dangerous dog. And if it happens again, the dog will go down. But again, that y'all live here, it's your town, and good luck. Do what you can.
Thank you, John.
All right, next up is Marcia Roy. Marcy.
I know, I like that. That was great.
I'm going to start out by telling you that Mary Paul is my sister, and I'm grateful that she's alive. I'm a neurologist. I went to the ER, and I saw her before her wounds were dressed, and it was appalling. It was raw flesh. Her arms and her legs were just torn up. She was protecting her neck, she was protecting her face, but my sister almost died. So I'm telling everyone in this room, every one of you, this is a wake-up call. It's a wake-up call for this town. And I'm not going to be as nice as the rest of these speakers because my sister almost died. I'm telling you, we could write the most perfect animal control law in the entire world. But if we don't have law enforcement, we have nothing. The statistics tell the story. And some of you are friends of Harry, and Harry's a very good man. He's a very nice man, but these numbers are going to tell the story. Last year, Harry wrote 20 citations. Tommy wrote 1,500 after that. Something has to change. I'm going to tell you we're all at risk in this town, and it's not just from animals. We're at risk because we don't have law enforcement. What I want is a police chief that has a strong work ethic, someone who wants to do the job, has the courage to do the job, and does the job. Does the job. He's the leader of our police force. He's the mentor of this young boy that's coming in. And I'm impressed with him. But if this is the standard, oh my gosh. And it's not like last year was the only bad year. Randy Bunker can tell you there was a year in the end of his tenure. He wrote 2 citations in the year. We have a problem. And we have to have courage to change. It's going to take courage. And when you take a position of leadership, that position of leadership means that you have to make tough decisions. And this is a tough decision because we all like Harry. He is not doing his job. Let's just face it. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome. How many years are we going to wait? I'm going to tell you about Sonia's father-in-law, Marcos. He's our hero. Marcos got out of his car hearing Mary's screams. And Marcos had nothing to defend himself at all. And Marcos had the courage to get out there and take the bites from the dog so Mary would have a break. Marcos saved my sister's life. And Marcos at the ER just said over and over again, I wish I could have done more. He was crying, I wish I could have done more. And those words just keep echoing in my head. I don't want another person to be injured like my sister. There are children, there are elderly who couldn't have withstood that attack. And are we in this room going to be thinking in our heads, I wish I could have done more?
Marcy, the time's up, please, unless somebody wants to.
Last 2 minutes.
No, ma'am, you've used yours. David Paul's up next,
Remember,
if you'd like.
I wish I could have done more.
I think everyone should give her 3 minutes.
Give her 3 minutes.
I'll give her 10 if I don't know any.
Well, we're not. I'm running the meeting, so we're not doing that. So please wrap it up, Marcy.
It's all in your hands. It takes courage to do this. It takes courage to face the situation you're in and to really stand up and to protect us. I want to ask you, Rob Davini, this is a tough question I'm about to ask him. Is his friendship with Harry stronger than your desire to protect this community? I've seen the police car at his home when he should have been out patrolling. I have to say the truth or I can't live with myself. And some of you may be very angry because I'm speaking the truth about Harry. But I'm telling you the truth. And it comes from the bottom of my heart.
Okay,
If you
Mrs.
don't
Lloyd, please
listen,
sit down.
you-
Please sit down now. Thank you. Next up is Mr. David Paul.
Should have fired his ass.
My name's David and I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic. We have to be in the solution. We can get stuck in a problem, but it's about a solution. And I suggest that if a dog attacks, I don't care if it's a cat or another animal, most importantly a person, that it gets a death sentence. That there isn't second chances when it comes to something this vicious. And somebody that owns one should have to get a $10 million liability insurance on that dog. it's horrendous what's happened. And as Dr. Roy expresses, that we're very concerned citizens, that it is going to be a child next. And Mary is a professional athlete and was Miss Texas in bodybuilding, and she had the strength, the core to stand up twice. I don't believe, well, I know she's tougher than I am, but I don't believe there's anybody here that would have made it through what Mary's been through. I love her dearly, and you know, I thank this meeting for staying civil. That this is, yes, Mary and I are blessed, and we are highly favored. There wasn't an artery severed, there wasn't a whole muscle group that was torn in half. That there's so many miracles that have come out of this, that it's God's hands are all over it. So let God's hand be all over getting something done in the solution. We can't solve it in the problem. We do need to share what the problem is. Let's take action now.
Yes.
Thank you for letting me
Yes.
talk.
The next one up is Miss Foster. Lisa Foster.
Hi, I'm Elisa Foster, and I'm Don Foster's daughter. But I bought my house in 2004. We live in Bella Vista, but I walk my dogs through all of Martindale, and I come to Martindale events and I'm part of the community. My dog was attacked by a pit bull a couple of years ago, requiring $750 worth of vet bills, which the person who was in this room paid for. But I'm not, that wasn't enough, because that dog's still around and I still see it and I still want to walk my dogs and feel safe. My dogs are well trained, my dogs are on leashes. I can't walk them down any of these streets without fear of them getting attacked. My friend comes to visit, she jogs, she's been attacked by ankle biters all up and down 1979. And in 2014, I think it was Tommy went and eventually had to have them confined. I don't know who it was, maybe it was you. It was one of the guys went and had to have those dogs put down because the owner refused to just vaccinate them. They were under observation for a period of time to make sure my friend didn't get rabies. But and then I'm also the godparent of Patricia's kids who live across from where these dogs lived, and I've walked by them many times. Those dogs were always barking. So I would like this to be a safe community for people, for the dogs who have loving owners who train them well and teach them not to get off the leash, pull off the leash, or get out of their yards. My dogs are well contained when they're when we're at home in the yard. Thank you very much for your
Thank you.
Next up is Susan Schoen.
I can do it from here. I just have a brief comment, and it has to do with communication. I couldn't find the leash ordinance anywhere. I still to this day don't know where it is. The only one that I could find is the online ordinances. I did a search for the word leash, and it only brought up one ordinance that said that you had to leash your dogs in the city parks. Is there another one? Well, then I would suggest that we publicize that, communicate that a little better, because I was actually trying to find it and couldn't. So, regardless of how it's written or whatever happens, we gotta publicize it. The other thing, if people can't comply, if they don't know. And the other thing is, just from some comments, I just want to put in my 2 cents is that there's nothing that I would say that I do not want to diminish anything that happened, but I really like us to stay away from identifying certain breeds that are banned from the city. It's the owners. it's the owner's responsibility. And it's not because I don't know what kind of dogs it was, but there are some sweet, loving pit bulls, just like any other kind of breed. So let's deal with the owners and not the breed. And I am very sorry for what happened.
Thank you.
All right, and next up is Sam Clinton.
All right, Sam.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, city council members. I am so great to have all of us here for this workshop tonight, and I am glad to see Mary Paul here as well. From what I understand, there is a zero tolerance for any dog that is out. I know that because I received a ticket from Chief Harry Juergens about an hour and a half ago. I have a small 8-month-old puppy that I was unloading my equipment out of my truck. I left my gate open and the dog ran over to Latricia's house, I think, or ran over to your house, and just about 5:30 or so, my dog ran over to your house. Harry saw it, and I said, this is a puppy. I'm sorry he got out. Can I have a warning? No, there is zero tolerance. So I am commending Harry, even though I got a ticket, I am commending him. I am commending him for issuing 2 tickets today, and for what I understand, there is zero tolerance. But in this workshop today, I want us to distinguish between repeated dogs that have been escaping out of yards. There's a house on Main Street next to our park, Guardiola Park, where those 2 dogs there have attacked several dogs and actually, from what I heard, killed a dog. So let's distinguish between dogs and puppies. I'll speak to the judge, but I would have liked to receive a warning, but I'm glad Harry did his job and gave me a ticket and said there is zero tolerance. But please, in this workshop, let's distinguish between puppies that just want to lick and jump on you and dogs that are repeated offenders. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
For any later arrivals that didn't have a chance, anybody
Can I please say something?
fill out a form, please? Cindy, you raised your hand. Did you want to do that as well?
Hi, I'm Cindy Colburn.
No, fill out a form. Okay, Latrice, you're up.
So, I just want to say, first of all, Happy New Year to everybody. And I do want to say that good policing isn't about citations. That doesn't really mean that we have good policing because somebody run around getting citations. And I think that's important. And I have a crazy dog, and he's a small dog. And I came to this meeting because I'm struggling about putting my dog down. My dog is 12 years old, and I travel a lot. I'm gone a lot. And I love my dog and everything, but Spiller digs out. He's a digger dog, and Lisa can definitely attest to this. He's a digger dog, and my neighbors across the street, who I believe may have problems with black people, for whatever reasons, that my dog got out, and my daughter was there, and this has been several months ago, and the guy came out and said, your dog keeps pissing on my $80,000 truck, and we'll stand things like this, which, the cost of anything is irrelevant. And the way and we've had some contention because of the dog, and to me, it's not worth it, to deal with this type of, where it'll be a shootout on the corner of Lockhart Street and Crockett behind a freaking dog. And I love my dog, and it's real hard because me being there alone, I come in a lot at night by myself, and my dog is there, and my dog barks when people come around and stuff. But I've had so many issues with the people across the street, and like I said, he has made comments that were inappropriate that lets me know that if something happens and my dog is over there and he has a right to shoot, that it could be something that is, that could happen to me personally from me trying to deal with my dog. And so this Mary Paula, I'm so sorry for that, and you did such a wonderful job. Instead of a neurologist, you seem like a lawyer. But, you know, I understand because I've been dog bit. I grew up in Chicago and I've been viciously dog bit. So I do understand. But this has been a good thing for me too. And I'm asking y'all to just pray for me because it's real tough. You know, you love your dogs. And it is not about breeds. Because this is a small red terrier, and he gets crazy. And, you know, he's just, I don't know. And so I just wanted to say, and I know you get the Richard sound like you're probably saying that too.
Let me tell you, I don't have a $21,000 truck. I'm not across the street. I'm not the guy. And I don't drive.
You're using up your time here.
He hit me twice. He bit a friend of mine, and he went after my daughter.
Okay. Well, so, like I said, well, my time's up, but like I said, I am here for the very reason of just hearing and saying my sentiments. I support however we draft this ordinance to be forced to be a safe community. But I don't think that would help. There's one thing that happened when that didn't happen. The guy was like said, call Harry. This just happened a couple of days ago. And the guy was like, call Harry, and it was on the weekend and stuff. And I didn't think that was necessarily appropriate because I was out there trying to calm my dog. And my dog did not respond to my voice of telling them to come back. So I'm going to buy some of that until I put whatever that is you had, the little...
Called halt.
Yeah, I'm going to get some halt for him. And me and him are going to have a halt.
All right. Latrice, thank you.
Thank you. Mary, I'm glad you're okay.
Next up is Cindy Colburn.
Hi, like I said, I'm Cindy Colburn. I've lived here almost all of my life. And there have always been a problem with animals in this town. Mostly animals that are abandoned. So speaking to a solution-oriented thought, I would like to address that as well. There are cities and counties that can afford retaining pens or enclosures until something can be done about free roaming animals. I'm not sure that we're really one of those, but that might help some. I'd also like to see possible wording to the effect of having an enclosure. If your animal cannot stay in an enclosure on your property, because it's not always about dogs who you're walking on a leash. It's about other dogs who may be being walked on a leash or who run out from an open door at your home. So if any of those ideas could elicit some change, I'd appreciate that. I have brought up this topic to at least 3 mayors in the past because I've always felt like it wasn't enough enforcement to say a voice command. Animals are animals and they have instincts that we don't, and they snap at any moment. Sweetest animals can be animals. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
And we have one from Wendy Bagwell.
Hi, good evening. We've lived in Martindale for about 20 years, and 2 of the 3 dogs that we have right now showed up on our doorstep. I think that's, Cindy, what you were kind of talking about is that some of us in town take on some of the dogs that get abandoned. In saying that, what I've seen is I definitely agree because although people are talking about Harry, he did cite us. He cited us about a year ago. So I guess I was one of the lucky few, but since then we now have a fence up. We're trying to do what we need to do, but it was a very knee-jerk reaction, extreme situation, and I really think it's important to transition from what people are operating under to a law or an ordinance that I agree with my friend Susan is very, when that happened to us, I was trying to look up the ordinance, I was looking at police laws, it was very difficult to find out exactly what the law was. We were handed something tonight, but I really don't even know what that is. And maybe that could be,
Part of the ordinance.
Part of the ordinance. Okay. So, but it still doesn't, anyway, I need for myself, I'm a visual person, I need pictures, I need, things that kind of make sense, but also, Harry actually came by and let us know what happened to Mary Paul. We didn't even know. It was days later that this even happened. We've got to have better communication about these things that are happening. Not everyone maybe is on Facebook. I am now. I honestly didn't even know there was a Martindale Facebook. But there's a group of people that also aren't here that we need to be talking to and be communicating with. We used to get things in the mail, updates to things and that sort of thing. I think we need to go back to looking at how do we communicate these very important things that are impacting everyone. But the really important thing is that extreme going from one thing to the other. There's got to be a transition period of what people are used to operating under and this zero tolerance. And then all of a sudden you're getting a ticket when a dog just happens to happen to us. The police came, there was a thing that happened, our neighbor didn't lock our gate, and our dogs went out when the police was coming by. I mean, it was just this this bizarre thing. We could have received 3 tickets, just then. So I really think there's got to be some discussion about transition. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to double dip if I could.
That's a double dip. No double dip, sorry.
You may have an opportunity at the end here, David, if you'd like to, if you can just hang on to it for a little while.
All right.
Okay, that brings us to the end of our public comments, so that the council has now heard the feelings of the community, and we appreciate all the inputs on that. What we're going to like to do right now is we'll go around the table. We've all had an opportunity to look at the current ordinance that is on the books from 2004 and for a week now, and we're going to take it one by one and go through and let each council member talk about what sections they'd like to change, what kind of changes they'd like to put in there or feel like are justified, and we'll have a debate amongst the council members to go off and see what their feelings are about that.
I must excuse myself. I'm not prepared to do that because I have not been able to go on and do my due diligence.
I got you. That's understandable.
I thought we were going to do it on Tuesday. I don't know why I thought we were going to do something tonight. So, are we just discussing?
Yeah, this is all discussion. This is trying to lay out what kind of things we want to go, any changes, if any, to the current ordinance and what that would entail, kind of like we've done in some of these other things,
Sure.
What we got to go do.
I'd like to be able to absorb all that's been said, to be able to make any kind of, even a discussion. I don't know if anybody else feels that way. Does anybody else feel that way?
I've been doing some research, and I've been looking at other towns' ordinance, and just like I believe with some of the statements that was made, like from going all the way from where we're at to zero tolerance, there has to be like some adjustment period with what we're going to do. Like what I've seen in towns, it's like it's broken up into chunks. Like the first time there's a warning, second time there is a citation written, third time, there's more citation, depending on the severity, like of what happened, if it was attack, if it was a loose animal, but also where I've seen it done that way. I believe, like, as a person, as a council member, I think something like that is feasible, and it's not something that's, automatic. Because I have a dog. My dog is with the leash running away from me with his leash on, so I probably could have gotten ticketed numerous times, So there's also some things that I know, what I saw, it's like you could register your pet with the city, you show your proof of vaccination if you do. It's a lifetime, it lasts for a lifetime while you're here. You have your rabies, and then you also have proof that they were microchipped. What I saw was that, that was a lifetime. I do also believe the voice to command needs to be striked.
Let's take them one at a time, Sonia. So the first thing that I heard is that instead of enforcing the letter of the law, we want to change this to allow some kind of a step-by-step process.
Yes, sir.
Where would we put that, I guess? It would be down there under.
I didn't really see.
Enforcement of the chapter,
It'd be
section
down.
10-2, page 10, possibly.
We on the original one?
Yes.
Where are we at?
Page 10.
So right now
Or even 10.5 on page 13.
it says the enforcement of this chapter shall be the responsibility of the supervisor of animal control or his designee or a police officer. So that says it's the county or a police officer.
Yes, sir.
And any animal control officer or police officer shall have the authority to issue citations in here of this. It doesn't talk in here at all about first incident will be a warning. Second incident, of course, tracking those gets to be by animal gets to be somewhat of an issue.
Yeah, and section 10.5 deals mostly with impoundment, but also discusses violation notices. That's starting on page 13 and continuing through the top of page 16.
So a violation notice, where does that go into? How's that tracked?
It's just like a traffic ticket.
So is it tracked through the court? Okay. So, this is our original one, right? Okay. So so a violation has to be an official ticket? Yes.
Well, right now it is.
I mean, that's what I'm asking. I just want to know.
So we could put in there a step-by-step process if that's what we want. That's not what I heard earlier today, but that's what right?
I heard one, but yeah.
Mayor, if I may, and you'll have to pardon my inability to be very loud. So, I know that, first of all, I too had a situation, but the point of me sharing it has to do with the steps. I know it was after 2004, so this ordinance was in effect. And without all of the details, but the situation was that two dogs on an adjoining neighbor's property were coming over to my property on Johnson Street and stealing our chickens and trying to fight with our dog at the time. And so I reported that. The police officer that was here at the time is obviously no longer here. She understood the situation. There was an incident where there was a full-on attack. At night after dark, their two dogs came over and tried to completely kill our dog. We were able to get them separated. Animal control in the county was called. Those two dogs were picked up that night. The owner of the dogs was not home, not around. The police officer who was on duty through the process, once she got to the owner, she cited him with 2 citations, each of them, whether it be the judge that determined the dollar amount or it was just straight away, I do not know. But he was given 2 tickets for $500 each, one for each dog. however many days went by that he had to appear to deal with those citations, he failed to do so. That particular officer in that day said, according to what we have on the books, I have the ability to request a warrant if he doesn't appear. And she did. Or he did not appear. She issued the warrant and picked him up. And then he had to go to county and pay all of those fees as well as the dogs. Long and short, the dogs were taken care of and gone. And matter of fact, the house isn't even there anymore. But nonetheless, I personally have experienced a situation where there were steps. Those were clearly explained to me back in the day. And so I just wanted to share that with, and I don't know that I really had this in hand at the time, but I was told the steps were explained.
Can I speak real quick?
Yes.
Okay, thanks, sir. Let me just read real quick. Restraint. This is our ordinance. Restraint shall mean the animal.
What page are you on?
Page 7. Restraint shall mean the animal is secured by a leash and are under the control of a responsible person and obedient to that person's command. I mean, that could be changed, but it's obvious to me. I'm not an attorney, but that tells me if you don't have voice control, it needs to be on a leash. Okay? And I guess for me, that particular animal was not under control. Verbally, it had an autistic child, I think, and then down.
You're talking about mine.
Your case, but I'm just saying.
But
that particular thing, they're in violation at that point. But my concern is, we need to listen to the public, and what does the public do? We could write an ordinance. We need to say, hey, Patricia, I have a problem. So, okay, first step, you contact the police officer. If you don't have any luck with the police officer, you go down to the mayor or you go to the city manager. And we have protocol. First step, police officers. If there's nothing being done about it, you go to the city manager. Now, if you go to a council person, you say, I have a problem. And then if they have to, if they still haven't got it, come down to the city and write something, a written form, like a complaint or a concern, not a complaint, a concern. Therefore, it's documented. We could word it differently, but the citizens need to know exactly what they need to do, to prevent this.
And I'm going to jump right there because you just triggered me to let my voice be heard in the sense of, I think it's important for residents, myself, I want to know what dogs on what streets have been flagged, if you will, or have been cited, because I'm not going to walk down that street. That's a responsible choice of my own. So I personally would like to know, whether we
Can we do that legally?
I don't know.
I don't know. Well, what I'd like to do is get back to the topic that was at hand, and you're going to get your turn, and you're going to get your turn to go over your major concerns. But we're never going to get through this if we don't stay with the subject and try to go get it done. So the first one is the first suggestion that Sonia had is that do we or do we not put step by step, throw a warning step into this stuff now. So, what I heard from the public today was some of them were, we're a little bit rough on the small puppies, but we really don't like having dogs out, and it's a zero tolerance kind of thing for dogs that are running loose. And so Sonia says she thinks we ought to have a couple of steps. The first, you get a freebie on the first go round. What's the rest of you think? Mike, you want a freebie on the first go round, or you want to just say, if he's running loose, he's running loose? I think that's what I heard.
I'd say a warning.
One warning's okay. Mary, what do you think?
I just want to add this to it.
Okay.
In my case, had a neighbor that had complained about the dog who attacked me known that calling and making a complaint, not written, but she did it verbally, not knowing that wasn't an official complaint or a write-up for that dog, then I feel that would have been like 2 or 3 times before this particular 2 dogs attacked me. And it seemed like that there was no, that their citizens don't know what to, or how to, whether they had to do it in writing or is contacting the police and doing a complaint verbally, is that enough? So does that go along with what we're doing, doesn't that?
Yeah, we can put that in there somewhere along the line. You know,
But
written complaints are the only, you know, are the official word or whatever.
How is it done? Because nobody knows.
Well, we'll take complaints anyway. You know, you can get on the webpage and say, you know, I had a dog in the area and I need somebody to come take a look at this, and they'll come look at it.
Okay.
Now, when the police department shows up, many times it's, well, there's the dog, and he says, oh, that's Ginger from down the street. I know where that one goes. Get in the car, and they jump in the car, and he goes and takes it away. And the person says, okay, thank you. Okay, now
Now, is that a complaint?
No, well, no, that wouldn't be a complaint.
Why?
Because it wasn't documented. Now we can.
Why wasn't, no, so that's my point right there. Why wasn't it documented at that point?
It needs to get it filed in the system as a dog thing. You got to fill out that form that says this dog is there or whatever to get it in the system, right?
But that means a citizen has to do that?
No, a citizen can just tell Harry, I want a formal complaint on this.
So you have to use those words, want a formal complaint.
Or just a
Right,
complaint?
'cause I
I want a
don't,
complaint,
you know,
that's what I'm saying. There's too much, when a citizen calls and there's a dog loose and that dog's loose, means that there's a complaint that there's a dog loose.
Yep, I agree with you.
And it needs to be go on the record for that dog, or that dog attacked my cat.
Mm-hmm.
That needs to be going on the record for that dog. You know? And
I
so
understand.
I think if we had this proactively, then it wouldn't happen. I don't want to go woulda, shoulda, coulda, but, okay, I'm gonna stop there.
Can I make a suggestion that we start with the ordinance itself rather than the process for citations on the back end and how it's enforced?
So what I've heard is that you kind of agree that a warning is not a problem, but we want to get all complaints registered.
But a warning for,
I have
I
a
do.
problem with this.
Written.
A warning,
But
if
a
it's
warning-
a bite, you don't give a warning.
Right, that's
would be different.
Okay, hold on.
That's right.
Okay, just a second. So a warning for what? What are we warning them?
For loose dogs.
Loose dog.
Okay,
Like what
so
happened with Sam.
just a loose dog, not a dog that has acted out.
Running at large
Right.
dogs.
There, not an enlarged, but no attack, okay.
Right.
But
The
Patricia-
definitions of, the
Patricia
definitions,
should have had her complaints filed.
the definitions of dangerous dogs and vicious animals is also in here. And when
It is,
when
yeah,
those are
right.
triggered,
Right.
you go down a path that is totally different than just running
Okay.
running at large.
I got you, I agree with that.
But I
Right.
believe what Sonia had suggested was, instead of a zero tolerance policy, in other words, in violation of the ordinance, you get a citation, that we build in here a process that says if you've got one that's running at large and its owner is around, that they get some kind of a warning and we document that. That certainly can be done. I think.
And that's an at-large animal, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Now because with the same thing that with doing research and seeing if it is like a dog bite or a dog attack, there is a report taken, a sworn affidavit. That would be something else that would be totally different. But this is just for the process, like if there's a dog that's running down the street and there is, and say, Harry does know who it belongs to, he takes the dog over there, he's gonna say, you need to have your dog behind a fence. If your dog is out again, it's gonna be a ticket. Then say if he sees the dog, the next day out, and it's out, he already gave him the official warning that's documented, then the next time it would be a ticket. The third time it would be a higher ticket. And also with going over all this, with looking in this and doing the research on this, it also goes with the Texas Health, and it's a Texas Health Code that's online too, that you could see that a lot of cities go through whenever they're looking at their ordinance. So the Texas also It was right here.
The Health and Safety Code,
Yes.
Title 10.
So that.
Health and Safety of Animals.
Yes, so that's what else,
Regulation of animals.
you have to do. I mean, maybe there is a dog that is trying to escape, that's getting out of that house because it's being neglected. Maybe the best thing for that dog is going to be, if the owner's not doing nothing, for it to be taken to a shelter or to do whatever. But I think like doing that by steps and having the tickets getting larger could be, a win-win situation, possibly for the safety of the pet and also for the pet owner if they're ticketed to make changes to their property.
Anybody disagree with having this step-by-step process for running at large? For running at large.
Sounds good to me.
In our ordinance, I didn't see a zero tolerance thing in here.
It isn't.
Okay. I also read somewhere, and I can't remember where, that there was actually I thought there was a warning first, then there was a $20 to $200 fine. Was that in the proposed one? And then after that, it's a $500 fine.
Yes, that's in
And
Up to, like that's the max.
right.
Where are we
And I
talking?
can't remember where.
Anybody
It's the
know?
last page of the ordinance.
It is the last
Okay.
page, okay. So, right. So, any person who shall violate any of the provisions of this chapter or fail to comply herewith or with any provisions thereof shall be guilty of a Class C misdemeanor upon conviction and be fined a sum not less than $25 and not more than $200, and each and every day's violation shall constitute a separate distinct offense. Subsequent convictions of any violation of this chapter within a 12-month period shall be fined in an amount not more than $500.
And see, and what I believe, just to make it just clearer, is second time, $250, third time, $500.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Would you limit it to just the 12-month distinction that's made in the current ordinance, or would that be for the life of the animal?
I would say that's considered repeated and maybe something, maybe they need to mandate to put a beware of dog sign or something so people can see.
I agree, kind of short and simplified.
Yes.
Because
250 first time, 500 the third time. The second and the what?
How much the first time?
First time is warning.
No, I say go ahead and give it a range. Maybe up to.
Who's gonna decide?
The judge will.
The judge and the prosecutor.
Because if it's something like, a puppy gets loose, then, I can kind of understand something like that.
What we could do is we could we could put something in there in the back that running at large has a fine structure of this. The dangerous dog or vicious dog things have the stiffer one.
Right.
Right, that's item 3 here, where it talks about dangerous dogs upon determination of such pursuant to the section 10.11 shall double all applicable fines.
Yes.
So we already kind of got that.
Right.
I have a notion.
Before we get another notion, unless this is with the fine, okay,
Yes.
come ahead.
Been dealing with the dog stuff for as long as I've lived here, over 20 years. And, to me, education is critical. And as Ms. Cumberland, spoke of, being responsible pet owners is critical. As a resident, people in general like to be told what they can do versus what they cannot do. I have had the idea before and have spoken to it with other mayors in regards to, and most of you are aware, what an invisible fence, where the dog wears a collar and there's a beeping, it's Bluetooth or radio, and they get to a certain area and it beeps and it makes the dog come back. Now, you're looking at me like I'm crazy.
It doesn't work.
Yeah, I've seen.
Okay, I'm
I've
telling
heard
you that I
a lot
had
of people say that dogs will run right through it.
I'm telling you that there is a way. I had an 85-pound boxer, and when that sucker was turned up, he did not get out of his area. if it was turned down or if his battery ran down. Now that is a responsible pet owner situation. The battery ran down, yes, but it doesn't happen overnight. You know, they get a little further and a little further. My point is that when it comes to the fines and the fees, those devices are about $300. If in fact there's a repeated situation, what if so it's the second time and they've gotten the max, a $500 fee? What if that person says, you know, I'll buy this and go there and not have to pay it all? I would like to see some kind of solution other than just, no pun intended, a whipping, you know, over and over and over again. And I'm not into, you know, giving everybody an invisible fence. That's not what I'm talking about either. But education and having that so that residents would know that they have the ability to do something, because not everybody can go put up a real fence. It's just not an option. But something like that is. Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, back at the ranch, we were proposing to raise the fines to set the fines without any range for dangerous animals. Is everybody happy with that one?
Where are we?
You want to write?
The suggestion was to take away the ranges and set the fines, but to do it not necessarily for running it large, but just for the dangerous animal activity. If they're deemed dangerous animal and have an incident that violates the thing, then you hit them with the big money. Is everybody happy with that?
Yes. Yeah, should we eliminate I think $50 is probably too less. I think 500,000 seems, if you double it, double the applicable fines above. I think we need to have the first offense pretty extensive, like no more than $25, like $500, and the next one will be $1,000. That way it's an eye opener for the dog owner if it's a vicious dog.
So we're talking dangerous and vicious subjects.
And which number is that? The dangerous and vicious?
Well, we haven't gone over how you determine that yet, but it's in there.
Why are we jumping down to that one yet?
Because that was the suggestion of a change to the fine structure.
Page 18.
Right.
I do agree that we give them a free pass, but a vicious dog, I don't think so. I think it's if they attack somebody, that it should be 500, and then the next time it's $1,000.
So just so we're clear, the current ordinance does have a small distinction between dangerous and vicious, mainly dealing with attacks against a person or attacks against another animal. Where dangerous is classified on attack against a person, and vicious is generally for a non-person attack. So against another dog or animal, livestock.
I think a lot of people feel the same thing about their dogs they feel about their kids. I mean, I think it's going to be very punitive. I mean, if you have a dog that's biting and attacking your pet and it's on a leash, it needs to be very punitive. $500. Next time it's $1,000.
I want to make certain that we don't have legal here with us tonight to weigh in. I want to make certain that there's not any issue with council dictating these fees versus giving the range and allowing the judge to do so. You follow what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying, but it needs to be very punitive. Vicious dog.
Well, we can do a punitive range.
Yeah. Well, whatever. It needs to be pretty stiff.
What's punitive to you may be nothing to somebody else.
Excuse me. What's on the table is, do we set the fine to a number, or do we put a range in there? So how many think we ought to have a range?
I think a range. I think the judge needs to be able to determine.
Okay. How many? And I guess the other two think it ought to be set.
You want it to be set or range, Mike?
I think it ought to be set.
Okay, so we'll have to talk about that.
I just with a range though, I think we can make it where it's.
Do we all feel like the lower limit of the current ordinance is too low?
It is
25.
Everybody here thinks it's too low.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
But again, I'm just going to weigh in here. Whenever you're saying a range, that's going to be up to whoever's listening to the case. That's going to be up to their discretion. That's just like saying, for instance, dress code. It could be one person's perception of a dress code. It could be like very strict versus somebody else's. We're going to leave the range up to somebody that's going over a report that was not there, that, it depends on, I think if it's set, then it's clear, it's black and white, there's no gray, this is what it is.
Okay, we'll go look at that. To somebody's point, who's talked about, is this really legal to even go do that? We don't know. There may be some statutes on the books that because this is a Class C misdemeanor, that limit what the upper end is and describe exactly how we can go do this. But we'll go research that.
So right here,
So
what it
what
says-
I'm hearing,
Mayor Davini, for penalty for violations of that chapter, it says, any person who shall violate any of the provisions in this chapter or fail to comply therewith or any of the provisions thereof shall be guilty of a Class C. It says 25, not more than 200, and each and every day's violation shall constitute a separate and distinct offense. Subsequent convictions for any violation of this chapter within a 12-month period shall be fined in amount not more than 500.
right, we read that
That's our
earlier.
current.
Right.
Correct. So what I'm hearing your proposal is, you suggested, let's just take out the 25 and tell them it's gonna be 200 or 500.
If
Or
we
you
can.
even said 250 and 500, if we can. 3 people said, we really ought to have a range. 2 of you said that. I don't know. We'll go get some more information on that, whether it's
Yeah.
legal to do that or not, and come back and say.
come back and discuss it.
discuss it.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Okay. Now, none of us had any problems with adding a section in there for running, the section on running loose that give them the option of warning, first offense, second offense, and so we'll have to put some language in there for that. But everybody's agreed that just running loose deserves a warning. Is that what I've heard?
As long as they're running loose and not doing anything else.
And
Yes, they don't qualify
They're
as
just
a.
driving.
But we're on the same page. A warning is the first time, and then the second time
Yeah.
you're running loose, it's not like a,
This is a
it's not like a
non-loose,
warning.
Yeah.
Just a running loose.
Yeah,
No
so-
warning.
Yeah,
Warning,
warning, and then you get a citation if
Right.
they're out again.
I
So
agree.
to do that, we're likely need to remove that distinction of a 12-month period.
I agreed. I think so.
Yeah. I
Strike
think
that for sure.
Everybody nodding, yeah?
Yes.
Agree.
Yeah.
All right, we can do that. And we can track the warnings with just our regular
Yes.
citation. We can check the warning box and it's in the system. Okay, and so we're still in a zero tolerance policy. It would just be moving into that particular.
Are we gonna move this one to a warning?
No, just, I don't know yet. You and the prosecutor can work that out. Okay, that's good. Now, the next thing you had, Sonia, was something about registration. So let's talk about registration. That's not in there anywhere. Okay, we don't do that.
I know it isn't, but, well, what I was thinking about is that there is a form center, so I think since this would just be rolling out, since we have people that love their pets and care about their pets, they're going to want to just register them, with the city. Of course, like if you're registering with the city, what I would like to see is that there's no charge to register your pet, but you're just saying my pet does have a current rabies shot and they are microchipped. Another thing, as a pet owner, you would have to have your rabies shot with you, like somewhere at the house, so if your dog does get loose, that you do have your rabies shot with you somewhere to prove that your animal is vaccinated.
Yeah, and that's in the ordinance. Right. I mean, you're just clarifying that. Okay.
Well, the requirement to have them vaccinated is in the ordinance. The requirement to have them registered for the city is not in the ordinance. And I don't see, I guess, as we debate this, I see no sense in registering them if we're not gonna be able to look them up and recall them to tell them, hey, your vaccination.
Right. You're gonna
period is
come here every year and update it?
No, it would be good for lifetime.
You can't be good for lifetime, the vaccinations aren't good for lifetime.
Registering your pet with the city for a lifetime, but if he finds a dog and it's out in the streets, the owner would have the current vaccination shots.
Yeah, it's registered them, just that they're registered, they have a chip. And they just exist, and not that their shots are up to, is that what you're saying? It's not about the shots, it's about registering that you have an animal.
I'm Sonia Villalobos. I live in Martindale. I have a dog and 2 dogs. These are my dogs.
Right.
We live at 413 Northwest River Road.
Right.
And when the doggy police grabs a hold of them and says, show me your registration license, the dog doesn't have it on it, right? Because we didn't tag them, so we gotta tag them if we're gonna do this. Reasonably, you gotta go give him something that he can see when he picks up the dog, because he doesn't have the owner around, right?
But a chip,
Once you-
still need a fee.
So we'll
I
leave
don't
it,
think we can require chips.
Okay,
I mean,
I just thought I heard
there's a financial, I mean, she did say that, that's my personal opinion.
Let Rob finish.
but can't we
let me get through
require?
this,
Let
please.
Rob finish, okay?
Let me get through this one, okay. So, registration, I think, is a good idea, but I would want to have the vaccination records on there, and I would want to not make it lifetime, I would want to make it a two-year period, because that's typically the rabies or at least some of the shots thing. And so that we can, the vision would be that once a quarter, we sort it down and send out letters to everybody that says, hey, your dog you haven't come in and showed us the new rabies shots or the whatever vaccinations are necessary, et cetera, to do this. Because if not, the list is just gonna get long, and you're never gonna know whether the dog died, whether they moved away, you know, all of that. So there's a process that we would need to develop and some steps to go and do that. Now, I think that's a good idea, to register them. I'm not trying to defeat this, but to consider that it wouldn't carry some work and some cost associated with it, and therefore some need to be reimbursed by the dog owners or the animal owners. I think we would need to go do that. So others who want to weigh in now on registration, you had something, Mary.
Well, no, I don't know. I think that it's good for us to know who has what animal, but I don't know. I think that if they're loose, I mean, how do you find out where they live?
They're registered.
If you got a registration
And
tag,
if they don't, we send them to the pound, right? Okay.
right now it's just off of his knowledge. I mean, he picks up feces or something, and says, oh yeah, I know who that is. And then he goes and takes them back to him and says, hey, this thing was out, you're not supposed to do that, et cetera.
Sure.
But,
yeah, I don't know.
And then, as Sam pointed out, since this incident, they get a ticket.
And as we've talked about having sort of steps in transitioning from one thing to another, it could be that we do just as a rollout, maybe for the first 12 months, a voluntary thing. I mean, to be able to educate people that this is what we're going to do. So if we put this on the books and then 2 months later we have violations and they never knew about it, those are just thoughts that are crossing my mind.
So if you have a dog and you don't register it,
and it gets out,
and it gets out, but it has tags. Now where are we?
If it has tags,
and
it would still go to the pound. It would still go to, if you don't know who it belongs.
No, I mean, if you have it, it's not registered with the city. Okay,
But
I have a dog, and my dog has a tag. It says where he lives. At 302 Main Street. That's where I live.
Or the veterans.
And then they get all the things that are on their little tag, and they get out, but they're not registered with the city. Now where are we?
Yeah, you know what?
They become registered
But-
all of a sudden. That they got involuntarily registered.
No, you would be in violation. For instance, it's got the vet tag on there.
Right.
We call up the vet and say, hey, who's this belong to? He says, oh, that's Mary Paul over there.
Right.
So Harry'd show up and say, hey, I got your dog. It's running at large. That's a violation of 10-whatever. And here's your dog and here's your ticket.
Yeah.
Or if it's the first time, here's your dog, here's your warning ticket. If it's the second time, it's here's your dog, here's your ticket.
But you're going to get a ticket whether you register them at the city or not. So now we have
Yes.
So now we get
If he
a
brings
double
it back.
ticket.
But at least then he knows that it does. There's confirmation that it belongs to inside the city. How many times did we take dogs to the pound?
2019, we picked up one of them. It was a double, so 7 dogs.
Which are things that he looks at and he says, oh, I don't know this one.
Business.
Well,
And it doesn't have a
no,
tag,
that's how
or
many
it
times we
doesn't.
took him to the pound.
Right.
How many times we said, get in the back seat, I'm taking you home, is unknowable. We didn't keep track of that.
No.
So I mean,
One thing we've done with our little pooch is, PetSmart, and you got a little tag and put your cell phone number on there. And that might be some kind of a identification. That way, if Harry doesn't know who the dog belongs to, hey, it's a cell phone number.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah,
Well,
call
most
the person.
responsible owners are gonna have the rabies tag.
But I'm saying,
So-
Jan, for traceability with the animal, I mean, it'd be easy if Harry picks the dog up and say, hey, here's a cell phone. Hey, Harry says, hey, I got your dog, and therefore it's an easy fix. If we want to do the registration of the dog in the city, just require, hey, put your cell phone number on the tag, and therefore we have a way to contact the dog.
So they have two choices. You can either come pick your dog up, or I'm taking it to the pound. Is that right? And that costs you money to get your dog out of the
So
pound.
we currently don't have a way to store
Yeah,
dogs
we don't have
other than the back of the patrol car.
And that is a good question.
So they go automatically to the pound?
Yes, ma'am.
Or home.
If
Which
I
pound?
cannot find a dog owner, they go to the pound in Lockhart.
Well, that would be good to have a phone number, you call the person, and there you
Okay.
go. It's done.
so you got registration questions or comments?
No.
You got registration comments.
I'm not for registration.
I just looked it up.
Not at this time.
San Marcos does have pet license and registration. And basically it says in-person registration. Registration must be done in person at the San Marcos Regional Animal Shelter Adoption Center. It gives the address. A pet license will be issued in the form of a tag and should be affixed to your pet's collar for quick identification should your pet become lost. We encourage owners to keep a collar. Most pets are lost without identification. It doesn't talk about any kind of fee if you don't. So I don't know if it says they must be, but it doesn't give any if you don't. So I'm just curious how other cities are doing it in regards to,
Is that
are
their
they doing
ordinance?
it in-house? No, the city of San Marcos is not doing it in-house. They are shifting that over to the animal shelter. And so because of that being in their county.
San Marcos got an animal shelter.
San Marcos,
Oh, yes.
the city of San Marcos has their own animal shelter.
So they got their own animal control people, just like you did.
So is that something that we need to consider potentially, as we have done interlocal agreements before, for the fact that we are in San Marcos ISD school, in the school district? Would that put us with them in?
No, we're with the Caldwell County Animal Control folks. They're even this.
If we're gonna do any kind of
So does Lockhart have a registration requirement?
The city of Lockhart does have a pet registration. I called over there and got some information, and it is, very in-depth. They actually, depending whether or not your dog is intact or not intact, so whether your dog is fixed or not fixed, one of the sheriff's deputies just registered his dog, cost him $250. And so it's like I said, that one's really in-depth. The animal shelter in Lockhart wouldn't be able to support, they operate on a volunteer basis over there. They have like one full-time employee and it's all volunteers. What they have in Hayes County, they're all paid employees at the San Marcos shelter.
In previous communities I lived in, it was $10 to $12, and it was annual to register. And it was a similar sort of pay your proof of vaccine,
right?
Who is your vet of record, and every year, along with the property tax bill, brought that same time. Here comes your pet registration bill.
Oh, they billed them.
To a renewal, I consider it a bill as a resident, but as a renewal for the license.
Yeah, I would expect that. I wouldn't want to do this if we weren't going to go be proactive and go out and, once a quarter, sort them down. Who just went delinquent or is about to go delinquent, and send them a letter that says, hey, if you still own Fifi, come in and re-up it.
I think I know how to do it. So where it would be, okay, so then you get the tags, right? You get the pre-order tags, 1 through whatever, they come in to register their pet. That city, your name is issued with that. Ms. Villalobos got number 39701. So that number is registered with the city, and you could put it with your cute little tag you get from wherever. But you have the one for the city. Those cannot be that, I'm sure they're not that much, but then that way it is with the city. Then as you're going through and you're keeping your spreadsheet, then you have them like according to dates and years because the way that it's issued. So it wouldn't be a whole lot of, you would be able to keep for the month of so-and-so this year, this many people got it done. So there's a way to do it and to simplify it, but I think what's going to be the key is, now that I'm hearing, charging a fee and then doing, also issuing the Martindale tag.
Right.
Yes.
We can have pet roundup.
And then we would expect them when they register them to provide their current vaccination
Yes, sir.
information. So
And put their cell phone.
Boom.
You
Yes.
can do this yearly, beginning of the year, then you don't have to go through it every 4
Each
months.
month, you're right, yeah.
Okay, so I see nods around here, all the way to here. Jan says no, but the bulk of them say yes. So we may write up this process and put it in there, okay?
In Lockhart, they do make a distinction, like Chief Harris said, if the dog,
I'm sorry, Mary, but
I'll watch it on
Okay.
I'll go home and
thank you.
thank you guys.
You're
You're
welcome.
on the right road. Thank
I've
you.
been doing
Take care.
I know, and thank you. Thank you.
Take care.
Dog needs to be insured.
I'd like to,
806.
can I do something different besides registration?
Well, we're coming around the table. We just hadn't got off square one yet. So we've talked about the warning process. We've talked about registration. You got any others you want to throw in there?
I think like with the terminology, I agree with the vocabulary that was set out in our ordinance, So I don't think like that, it hasn't changed, from the Texas code to our city code. Pretty much all the terminology is the same. So I think like terminology is good. I think that with the, if permitted the steps, like we said, and then also with the registering, I think that the enclosure needs to be an enclosure. Okay, that it needs to be an enclosure. I don't think like the invisible fence that you're using. Another thing is, I think that with the city of Martindale, we need to work more proactively with pals or the pets, with providing the van maybe to come to our community to offer the free spading and neutering along with their low-cost vaccinations. That if we could create a partnership with them to offer solutions to people.
With the county?
Yes, for our community.
Who does that?
Tractor Supply. Saturday.
Yeah.
Maybe educating.
Yeah. I think like a lot of people.
Do we know the name of these folks, or is this just there's somebody out there?
I know there's Vanguard Mobile Pet Clinic. There's also a company in San Marcos that's called PALS, and it's prevent a litter.
That was in Colorado.
Yes. So PALS, they do that. They pass out vouchers, and I know that according to like with some income, it goes by income based, because it's the responsible pet owners. This isn't going to be. They're going to want to comply. Now it's going to be the stray dogs, that we will need to educate and offer these services to them. That way they are in compliance.
Okay. I don't think we'll have to go research that and see that, but that's probably a good idea. Anything else?
I think that's
Okay, you got a list
I
of.
was just saying that in Lockhart, there is a difference in the fee. It's $5 if your animal has been, the word they use is altered. There we go. $5 to register altered animals and $10 for unaltered. And then they do have or you can do a lifetime fee of an altered animal for $15. So you don't have to do it every year. And then the last one, which I think is important, is if you have an altered dog and you are over 65, your registration is free.
You said something about breeder, if your dog's considered a breeder dog or something, was the big fine. That was the sergeant from the SO.
I like the older 65, the registration free. All right, any of the other sections you want to change? No. All right, now, Jan, we're here to you. What do you want?
Okay. I like a lot of the suggestions that were going on, but I think we need to have a separate web page that just addresses, especially since what's been, since since what's just happened, that lists the specific ordinance, especially since it's not in our little ordinance thing. I'd like to see the suggestions that Councilman Sonia was talking about, the different places, Tractor Supply, the shelters and stuff like that. And also, one thing that I'm seeing that's lacking in here is some kind of specifics on filing a complaint. And
A complaint filing.
an animal complaint, because that's where I'm seeing a lot of this may have been prevented if some of the communications between the public and the city had been a little bit better, as far as, hey, these dogs have been attacking me and my children, and I'm scared. And, and apparently Patricia had several incidences of it that should have been documented or something, so that, we can warn the public. I don't know. I kind of like the idea of a, beware a dog sign for repeated offenses.
And my thought to go along with that, since you said it, was, I can't say that I want to see this, but if you're a second offender, you get a sign in your yard that says dog offender or something. I mean, all of a sudden,
They
if you
need
start
to be
going up and down the
mandated
street,
to get the sign themselves.
and
The city
everybody's
doesn't need
driving
to be
by knows
paying for
there's
it.
a problem there, then pressure's going to come from other places, not just from the city.
Yeah, it's something we're going to have to look at.
I'm not
legal.
saying do
I mean,
that.
I
I'm just
probably
saying-
already need to have one.
I'm just saying.
But
Especially if it's a public registry, like a sex
but-
offender registry of dog
Agree,
offender registry.
right.
There's probably some legal things we'd have
And
to.
after reading this, I kind of feel like it's pretty thorough, the ordinance. I mean, it's a good basis for us to kind of work off of. I thought it was good.
Well, as far
That's
as,
about it for me.
as far as let's put up a sign that notifies people that these folks leave a dog out. So there's two kinds, right? If they're viewed as a dangerous dog, there's already a requirement to have a sign on your fence or your enclosure, that the dangerous dog resides there. So that's already in place. So now
Is that
what
a state thing?
Compliance.
Yeah, that's
How
a
many-
state
Oh, okay.
Do we have compliance with that? Do people know that's a requirement?
The problem is we have very few trigger points to go get a dangerous, to be classified as a dangerous dog. Now, everybody says, oh God, we got a lot of dangerous dogs everywhere. Jack's dogs probably qualify as dangerous dogs if the truth were known, but
It's contained in his fence.
well, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, that's still offensive.
Yeah, one of them is, doesn't matter.
You read the ordinance, it says if as long as it's contained in a suitable fence, they can't get out and attack.
And then would we provide, danger, vicious dog behind this fence signs for when the police officers say,
A dangerous,
I don't think we should be providing that. I think we need give them a ticket until they get the sign.
There's stipulations which the mayor was probably about to say. If a dog is deemed a dangerous dog, there's all kinds of stipulations to be ordered. A certain type of fence, there is $100,000 insurance policy that has to be put per dog.
okay, hang on a second before we get off that.
Four breeds of dogs that's required to do that.
Jack,
Let's stay on,
everybody,
stay on
just
point.
give me a second here. First off, the signage of dangerous dogs, we're gonna get to the definitions that we have, that the state has, and how you trigger that in just a minute. But what I wanted to get clarity on was citations for running at large. You got a dog, Fido's got out, we've picked him up, we've hauled him in, gave him a warning, he's got again, now he's into citation number 2, he gets a ticket. Are we talking about putting up a sign for Fido being running at large? No.
I mean-
All we're talking about on these are the
I'm
dangerous,
worried about
A sign
the,
for a dangerous dog.
just the dangerous and vicious
Yes.
animals. Okay, I'm good at that.
Are we gonna go around the circle?
We're coming to you, just give me a
I'm
minute.
done.
Okay, now,
But if I could just please get clarity, you're asking about a sign for a dangerous dog, correct?
yeah.
Something on their house, and everybody said no?
No, we said
No,
yes.
we said, actually, there's a requirement for that
Yes.
already.
So like right here, can I just go through the investigation, seizure, and confinement for alleged dangerous dog?
No,
And determination?
no, because I want to go over what we've currently.
Determine if he's dangerous.
Wait a minute.
I'm going to answer that question, Jack, if I could just get to it. If you'll just give me a minute. Okay. So now we're talking about signage requirements for dangerous animals or whatever. Now, our ordinance currently defines a dangerous dog as one, A, bites a human being, or two, a reasonable person observes unprovoked acts that lead them to believe the dog will bite. The animal must be outside its normal enclosure for this to apply. Okay? Now, that's our definition of dangerous dog, and it actually happens to match what's in the Texas code, health code, etc. It doesn't have anything to do with
All dogs are bite. Now, don't give me that,
Just wait.
all
the
dog.
way you're wording that.
Well, that's the wording we kind of got right now. Is it's either it either bites you, or when it's outside its enclosure, it bites a human, or when it's outside enclosure, a human feels like it might bite them. This is normally preceded by growling and snapping and snarling and all the things that go along with it. So it doesn't actually have to bite a person to get deemed dangerous. It just has to have somebody report it that hey, I had this happened to me, and I'm going to file a dadgum report with it, okay? And we can then go say that dog is now deemed dangerous. And there's a process once that trigger is made that is defined in our ordinance on how you go through the proper procedures to go make that stick. It has to do with the court, okay?
And one more thing I want to ask, clarify this about the tags. Are y'all saying that the dog has to have the tags on them?
That would be best, but we haven't really written that one way or the other
If
yet.
they're chipped,
I don't put collars on my
I
dogs.
got you.
They're outside working dogs. They could get tangled up in a tree limb or something and choke to death.
You
I don't require any of my animals to have.
You understand
You're gonna
that?
have to put them on a necklace.
What?
You're gonna have to put them on a necklace.
you have to wear.
Or give them a billfold they can carry
No,
around.
not if you got, not if,
Hang the tag next to the dog sign on the fence.
all right, let's
They make
move
breakaway
on.
collars.
Okay.
Finish the round robin.
Okay, so that gets you to a dangerous dog. Now, the other thing that we got in our ordinance currently is vicious animals. This is a different definition, which defines a vicious animal as one that attacks, bites, or injures human or domesticated animals without provocation, shows a propensity to do so. I don't know how you define. I mean that
Chasing chickens.
yeah.
You read the note.
or is believed by local authorities that it might do so. The definition of, so in 1010, section 1010 then, those are the two definitions of dangerous dogs and vicious dogs. In 1010 it defines what to do with vicious animals. It allows the supervisor of animal control to initiate a process of control removal at their discretion if it's defined as a vicious animal, as it is reported as a vicious animal. It does not allow the police department to do that. That has to be done by these trained guys at animal control, which is the county's got 2 people that fit into that category or whatever. And in that, it never really talks about having to sign them or not. It talks about if they come out after the investigation and determine that a dog, or any animal really, is determined to be a vicious animal, then basically you're asked to remove the animal from the city and either that or destroy it, okay? Section 1011
So in
defines...
order to be a vicious animal, more or less, he's going to have to bite somebody first.
Nope, to be a dangerous dog, he's got to bite somebody first. To be a vicious animal, somebody needs to co-report him as that, and then let the professionals, animal control people, come out and look and either agree or disagree.
Make an assessment.
Make an assessment.
So whenever
They
you're
got
saying
rabies
to make a report, is that a sworn affidavit.
You know, I don't think it has to be that. I don't think we define it as that.
Yeah, I'd be concerned about coming up with a system that where people have to say certain magic words in order for it to be official or in some sort of way.
Just file a report.
No, if I received a call and it was reference a dangerous dog or a vicious animal. What I am going to do, because I'm mandated to do it, is I'm going to call the sheriff's department because they have the animal control. Animal control is going to be dispatched out there and they're going to take charge of the call. Because I can't deem, like it says there, I can't deem that animal control can because they have the training. So that whole thing is going to be a call. If somebody comes to me, if Mr. McLeod comes to me and says, my next door neighbor's dog is eating a hole through the fence every time I'm in the backyard, he wants to eat my leg off, I'm going to call animal control over here so they can look at it.
Now, in the past, we've had a number of instances where people have called in and said, there's a dog over here, he's about to eat he sounds like he's going to eat me alive. Okay, and Harry would go over there and say, or one of the police officers go over there and say, okay, let me see, where's this dog? And they go look. And if he agrees with him, he can say, okay, I'm about to go turn this over to the animal control people. Do you want to do this? Now, many times they say, oh, no, never mind, And at that point in time, we drop it, okay?
Go ahead.
Now, I'm not sure, what I've heard earlier today and what I think we heard earlier from you guys is we're probably going to go say, you don't get to decide to drop it. You called it up. We agree with you. It's a done deal.
I'm gonna agree with that. I personally had been bitten twice by a dog that was delivering flowers in college and was told, there's a dog on the front porch, he'll wave at you when you go by, totally docile. Owner said, oh, he won't bite. I go in the fence, deliver the flowers, turn around, wham, dog attacks. So just because they look like, hey man, what's going on this time, does not mean that's what they're gonna mean the next time. So if an individual says, I'm afraid of that dog, I live across the street or I walk up and down the street, then I feel like a report should be filed on that dog.
All right, so what we were going over there's two different triggers. One for dangerous dogs, which Harry can go do. One with vicious animals, which must come from the animal control people. And of course, our determination of a vicious animal must be done by the county animal control. It allows for some judgment by the animal control folks. Since they cover the entire county, they're not normally around. It's kind of hard to get here on an instant, hey, we got one down here we need you to look at in the next 10 minutes. What that means in reality is this means someone needs to report there is a problem, i.e. report to the city police, county sheriff's office, animal control, or just a complaint to the city before any action can be taken. And it needs to be of the nature of, yes, I'm going to go follow through with this in the past. Now, I'm suggesting that we change the language in section the 10-10, which would be on page
17.
Oh, well, yeah, 17, I think it's right.
18.
Now, 10-10, control of vicious animals, is a whole process that you go.
Yes, 17 and 18.
You go through that. And then there's another section that talks about dangerous dogs, which the determination of dangerous dog can be done by the animal control designee, our police force, but requires either an incident where some human is bitten or reports or somebody to come say, I thought they were going to bite me, and that animal's out of the enclosure and not under control of a leash or whatever. So somebody has to come up and make a report that says, hey, this dog's running free and I think it's going to bite me, and then Harry can go off and on his own declare it being a dangerous dog. But again, it only applies to human attacks. It does not apply to domesticated animals. Additionally, this section only calls for the identification of an animal as a dangerous dog and then directs us to comply with the state health and safety code, which does have, once it makes it into that category, there's a number of things that have to be. The enclosure is well defined. There's some insurance requirements that have been added in recent years that we're probably not complying with, that the owner has to comply with, and it gets involved in our legal system. My recommendation is that we get, these are confusing, right? When we started this, was it a dangerous dog? Is it a vicious animal? What process we follow? I would like to go, take those two sections, merge the important pieces so that we have one place that if an animal bites a human or is thought to be likely bite a human or domestic animals, other domestic animals, that it triggers this section, and we follow the process once we've got it written. And the process in both of those mirror what's in the Texas Health Code pretty closely, but we seem to have gotten ourselves into arguments of, is this a dangerous dog or is this a vicious animal, and what are we authorized to do this, or are we not authorized to do this, do we have to call animal control, so I'm looking for y'all to tell me it's okay to go take a crack at rewriting those two sections. That would be section 1010 and 1011.
Yes.
I'm all
I would
for
say
that.
yes.
Now,
Everybody
are
happy with
you,
Can I say something first? I mean, I've been waiting my turn for a while.
Yeah.
For me, there needs to be a protocol for our citizens. Now, first step, report the incident to the police chief or our police officer. And do we have a written form? The complaint by the person, say, I had this dog, it did this to me, written complaint. And then I want to be able for the citizens to go down to the city manager or to the mayor and then verify that written complaint was issued to the city and it's documented. Therefore, we don't have this problem. I've told this, I've told that. Therefore, the citizen can go in and say, has there been a complaint issued for this dog that attacked or threatened me down on Northwest River Road? And that way he can come and say, okay, yeah. You say, yep, sir, it's, citation 134, it's been documented. Can I read that? Can I read that, please? Yeah, it's right here. That way the citizens know it's followed up. That's my 2 cents.
I have something that will segue with exactly what you've described. And that is, we as a city have realized and found a need in different areas of our community. With our parks, with our river, with our historic district. And we formed either a committee or a commission. What would it look like for us to consider forming something of the like for animal control? Call it a task force, call it a committee, to help for the purpose, not for them to go give people citations, but for the purpose of education. We obviously have a lot of people who are passionate about making certain that dangerous and vicious dogs are dealt with. And with the police department that we have now, we can't be everywhere at one time. And so a lot of things are going on that are unreported just for the fact that we don't have the ability to do it. So that's a thought that I would like to propose to be considered.
We're here to discuss about the ordinance specifically, not necessarily start another committee. We could put that on the future agenda.
It would be put into the ordinance that there would be one. No, it is definitely part of the ordinance. If in fact this council wants to entertain it. It's an idea.
I'd like to see how much public support we get of it.
Well,
Sounds like we'd have a lot.
I think we'd have a lot.
Because we had so many people
Would they be
tonight.
delegated policy-making responsibilities?
I don't think so. I think, in my mind, just as I've just thought of all of this, would be really about the education. And that committee would be the ones that would help find the organizations who would come and set up for vaccinations and spay and neuter, to be able to bring that together. The staff here and the volunteers that are here with all of the other things we have on our plate, I feel like this is big enough and important enough that we should consider opening that up.
Well, another thing too is encourage citizens, if they have a problem with a dog, please report it to the police chief, or to the city manager, or to a council person or anybody. Hey, this dog, went after me. For example, Kimberly Smith's dog came after me and my little pooch. Now I'm a big guy. and I picked my dog and I screamed at it and they ran away. Of course, I'm a loudmouth, aggressive person, and hey, but if you're a soft-spoken female or a kid, I should have probably reported it. You know, hey, this dog, like Catherine talked about earlier, and those dogs killed the neighbor's dog. So again, people need to be encouraged to report an incident, and we as a city and a police chief, we need to make sure we take this seriously and we record it. And that person has the right to come down and say, I want to see that report and I want to make sure it's been reported and documented. Therefore, if there's a problem with it, we know, hey, that's a vicious dog. It's been given 3 chances. There needs to be a hefty fine, or we'll investigate, because there's dogs that are friendly and sweet, like Jack's dogs. They're penned, they're in containment, but the ones coming out loose, it needs really the citizens need to address and tell our police department and tell us.
Well, to follow up what he's saying, it just needs to be clearly defined. I think that if somebody's dog is bothering them, really, if they tell me, yeah, but really, they need to either, if it's vicious, if it's aggressive enough, they need to know the protocol, call our police. If the police is not available, call the sheriff's department. If they're not available, there needs to be a clearly defined step what to do. Here's our report, it's online, you can come in and fill out the report, or whatever we want to call it, but that's how it needs to be done, it's just clear steps.
The avenues, yeah.
Probably maybe encourage, if you got a smartphone, take a picture of the dog.
Exactly.
Or a video or whatever. Here's the dog, and that could be documented in a report. Therefore, it's documented, And like I say, I'm at fault. I should have reported that particular dog that attacked Mary Paul went after me several years ago. I'm a big guy. I didn't do anything, and I probably should have said, hey, I didn't report it. But I probably, looking back, I should have said, hey, this dog, I think is vicious. He showed its teeth at me. I had to stand my ground, and I did, but I'm a big guy, and I'm loudmouth. I mean, I'm able to scream, and hey, he backed off. But I think we need to encourage people to report these incidents, and possibly more pictures or documentation. We're talking vicious dogs now, dangerous dogs, not somebody just come to lick your...
Yeah. Like that poor little, is that little Chihuahua down there that always sit in the middle of the road that got mauled by 2 dogs?
Well, we got the little poodle that got mauled and killed by those 2 German Shepherds. Oh, yeah, I mean, people love their little, I love them.
And I had a citizen talk to me in HB
for
a long time about it. And I think I asked Harry about it.
We need to encourage people to
about those dogs that attacked that little Chihuahua that always sat at the end of the road.
That's all right.
That's all taken care of.
Right.
Documented.
So I made sure it was okay.
Okay.
All right, anyway.
That's all I got.
But anyway, yes, we need a little bit.
I had registration on my list of stuff to do. There, one other thing that is not in here, and it has to do what Mike was kind of just talking about, is there's no city requirement on limits of animals. No, that's not what that one is. But yeah, this is one. Some of these city ordinances that we reviewed will limit the number of animals that are allowed. Buda has 5 dogs and 5 cats. Once you get to that level, you gotta, you can't register anymore because you can't have any more. We don't have anything like that in our ordinances. Do we want to put something in there?
Good question.
Yeah.
The registration fee may drive, when there's 25 cats and they all cost them $10 to get them all registered, all of a sudden they may not quite want to keep quite that many, but it'd be more straightforward if we would limit the number. Anybody here?
I kind of for that, especially cats. You kind of hear about the people that kind of have problems with cats, and tons of cats in their house. And
Cats eat rats, and I like that.
yeah, but
just don't feed the cats.
Cats breed more cats.
It's not a big deal. I certainly didn't hear it out of any of the population today that somebody had too many.
And dogs, I can't imagine anybody being able to take care of more than
I think dogs are a good
3
point,
dogs.
because they run in packs. Dogs get to a pack mentality. You got a bunch of dogs. I don't know. I think cats.
So yes on dogs. What? Yes on dogs.
Yes, on dogs and cats.
I can't afford that many, so it doesn't matter.
Unless they're, dog trainers or breeders.
It has some sort of exception or special
Right.
registration they can make.
Yeah.
Okay, now this is the piece, the next,
Dog walkers or.
this is the next one that we have. There's no time limit mentioned in the current ordinance for reporting incidents, no statute of limitations effectively. Recent events, we've heard, Mike just reported a couple of them, I had these things and they attacked me, but I didn't ever report anything because I don't think that much of it, but by God, I should have, or whatever, and we have not set the expectations with the community and the dog owners and the citizens as to, we expect you to do this in a timely manner, and I think there needs to be a statute of limitations plated in here that incidents need to be reported within 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, something like that, or keep it to yourself. You
I agree with that.
How many times do you, I'm going to tell you right now, about 3 weeks or so before Mary's incident, I drove around that corner and saw those dogs running out to somebody getting in their car with a stroller, and, of course, I had no clue about any of it. But after the fact, obviously it's been taken care of, but that's yet another. So, if we're going to require registration, are we going to require registration every year?
We'll write it up in either a year, every 2 years, depending on the vaccination information. I don't know what that.
I think
Every 2 years.
That's what the vaccination requirement is.
Okay, so what about a statute of limitations on reporting?
I would say it needs to be done immediately or within the first week.
Yeah, but if somebody comes 6 months later and says, I didn't know to report this, but this is what happened, and that gives the information that now deems this dog that just got a warning as truly a vicious dog, are you going to say, you know what, statute of limitations is over, we're not going to take your report?
Yeah, I kind of think we would.
I kind of think we would too, so I don't really think we should have a statute of limitations in that regard.
I think it's
Well,
important that we do.
I do too, because.
Statute of limitations meaning that you're not going to do anything about it, or statute of limitation, yes, you want people to report immediately. No doubt.
I think we just really need to encourage the citizens to come forward. Really stress to them.
Well, here's the problem, Lisa, with that,
Yeah.
is that if you read the process, when it's a dangerous dog or a vicious dog and somebody reports it, it triggers a series of events that are investigations, okay? I.e., we go talk to the people that are involved. Now, because Joe said that 6 months ago, I just remembered 6 months ago, Jack's dog came out and I was scared of him. I wanted that label as a vicious dog. Well, I don't remember exactly what day it was, but he really did that. He came out and tried to get me, and we go talk to Jack. Jack says, Rob, I had this dog. Those dogs were with me, and I was hunting back 6 months ago. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Then you come back and say, well, it really wasn't 6 months ago. It probably was 4 months ago. You get into those kind of things, and if you don't go get after it right when everybody's around, you can't. You can't really.
What you get is fresh on your mind.
Right.
You know exactly. If you think about it 6 months later, you're not going to remember the exact details. You're going to forget about it. I agree with Sonia on that one.
Yeah,
it needs to be
done immediately or within the first week.
But again, encourage people to do that.
30 days is probably enough.
30 days is fine.
That's fine with me. That's acceptable.
It just makes it ring. All right, thank you. We will try to fit that in there somewhere when we're doing this. And then we have one really major problem that nobody's addressed yet that I think has to be addressed. And that is section 10-3, running at large is prohibited. And it reads, it shall be unlawful for any domestic species except domestic cats possessed, kept or harbored to run at large as defined in section 10-1 of this chapter. This means that chickens must not be allowed to run at large.
Yeah, there's some chickens in the road down.
Absolutely.
Hey, wait a minute, I like those.
And I really think they all ought to be leashed myself. I think we should be out there walking. I'm recommending that we add fowls to the list of.
Peck me too.
Yeah, but you didn't report it.
So you want to specify dogs?
I'm going to specify fowl as excluded like cats. I think it's ridiculous that we.
Okay.
I'm being facetious with poor Sonia here
I know.
because.
I thought we were going to have chicken soup
on Civic Day, but okay.
Okay, that gets me through my list.
So,
Wait a second, we got Mike, you got anything on the list?
I just added my protocol, that was my thing.
Okay, I got that on
clarification,
this.
I want to make sure that I'm understanding. So for clarification on section 10-3, running at large is prohibited. So what that means is that if in fact you have a dog that is not inside of a fence
Or a leash.
or on a leash connected to its owner or someone's hand, you are in violation.
No,
That's
not the way it reads right now.
Currently within the definitions of the ordinance.
This is a really big deal, so.
So we want to remove the on owners at, what's the term?
Voice control.
Voice command.
Yeah, so that's page 7, restraint, is where it talks about obedient to a person's command.
I mean, I would personally love to see us be able to not have dogs running around. But we've got to be able to enforce that as well, and so.
So I think
right,
you
where
agree,
are you
you
looking
agree, I agree. It's page 7, restraint.
Oh,
It's these, one, back up one more
Yeah.
there. I think it's that one and that one. Basically, the ordinance has always allowed for dogs to be either on a leash or with the owner present, he can claim that he's under voice command and,
Not a responsible person, but I agree.
Yeah.
Get the
well,
voice
there
command.
are times when,
I say strike the
I mean,
voice
just
command.
Yeah, I
happened
agree.
to me
Voice
today
command.
when I was walking the dogs. It got away with me, and I managed to get it, but, if Harry happened to be driving by and I'm still trying to grab for that leash, hell, I might have to flag him down and say, help me get the dog.
You're getting a warning, don't worry.
first time was a warning. But
anyway,
everybody
that's the only
agrees
other
we're gonna take
problem.
that out.
That's
right?
Yes, take out voice control.
The one thing I would try to put out for conversation on that point is dog parks. If, as part of our parks, we have a leash-free dog park area where people can run their dogs in a fenced enclosed area. We don't have one currently, but that's something that the city could do in the future.
And that would be something that could go to the park committee for them to find out if in fact we have a need for that and then propose for it.
Yeah, it was my dog that almost got shot.
My recommendation on that is to not lose that thought, but to not include it in the ordinance right now. And if it becomes available, go ahead and then update. Yes, sir.
Well, on this point, I would suggest changing and/or to and. There's no reason why.
Yeah, where is that?
Back on that.
Back on the restraint.
On page 7?
Secured by a leash or lead and under the control of a responsible person.
Mm-hmm.
And obedient to.
Oh, okay, instead of the and/or.
Instead of or.
And one other thing, if you're gonna have annual registration fees, I would say if a dog is not altered, you should waive the fee for altering it.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get to that when we get to the
And then also, as you're saying, that's making me think, and then that's one of those designated line items in our budget, that those registration fees go to pay for the tags that we would provide, and that would be, not just to go into the general fund.
No. If we put in here, we're gonna go
We'd
do the
need to
registration
hire-
or whatever,
then we'll have
we'll
to
need
hire
to pay for it,
animal
whether the
control
money covers it or
officer.
doesn't cover it. And if you restrict it in some nature, we'll be opening up another restricted account and another way we gotta
yeah.
go keep track of it.
Well, I mean, you have to have a
This isn't
restricted
gonna
account,
be
just
that.
designated. Can you do that?
I don't know.
Administrative. It's
Yes,
too small of a town.
yeah.
It gets
got
difficult
other-
because then you have to account for police officers' time differently
Yes.
on different
Yes.
payroll.
Oh, you just
counties.
look at the record.
Police officers' time, but who's gonna handle that in the city staff?
Here, here.
Anyway,
All
I'm
right,
not gonna get into that.
so I think we've made it through. Has anybody got any more suggestions for
I
changes?
I
We got
have a
one
couple
more.
of things that I wanted to talk about with tethering, having chained up dogs in the yard.
It is allowed currently.
That's not what I read. I mean, it can't. What do you want?
And then I have one thing about.
If it's a dangerous dog, it's not allowed, I think, that's true. It's in an
It
enclosure.
can't be on, like a stationary tether or something.
There's lengths, it has to be a
What is it?
specific length, the tether itself.
A link?
Well,
Oh, a certain length, yes.
So there's some city ordinances that we read, maybe the San Antonio one you looked at, that does not allow tethering, not at all, okay? Buda does not allow tethering.
Right.
We allow tethering,
Tethering is allowed.
with the exception of the dangerous or vicious animals are not to be tethered.
That's correct.
And they're the ones that ought to be.
It's the bottom, the last part of the restraint where it talks about.
Where is it? Oh, the restraint.
Or secured on such premises by a leash
Running.
consisting of material sufficient strength to prevent a dog or other animal from escaping such premises.
So Sonia, you're saying you want to put a restriction on tethering in here? Say don't do it?
My heart's telling me yes.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna throw this out there. Your heart's telling you yes, which I totally get. However, there's a situation where
sad, but
the dog has been considered dangerous. The owners do not have the ability at this moment to fence it. And this is a temporary situation. You know, this is a solution for a temporary
that's
timeline.
still considered tethering.
I'm just asking. I mean, these are real world situations.
The problem's gonna be is there is a huge portion of our population that has tethered dogs. And a lot of them, like you just said, do not have fencing. I'm with y'all. I'm a dog lover. My dog sleeps in the bed, stays in the house. We don't and I don't like chained up dogs. But we fought this battle before when Dole Mosier was mayor. And it went away because it was going to be too much.
Yeah.
There's a way larger portion of people here that have tethered dogs than we know of.
Yeah.
And so then all of a sudden if you say you cannot tether them, then they're said, okay, fine, we'll let them free. And then we've got a whole nother, and then you come up and, you know. But
I don't think that's the case, but I think like if we're moving to a different time, we're trying to set standards for a city, we're looking for solutions to our pet, problem that we had. We're looking for ways to encourage responsible ownership and trying to move forward. Why wouldn't we look at not changing something just because dogs have always been allowed to be chained up in the city is not a reason why to continue to keep them chained up. I get it if they're vicious and dangerous and everything and they don't have the thing, but really what type of life is that for a dog to be hooked up to a chain all the time for their whole entire life?
We have quite a few right here in town
Yeah,
that's like
like
that. And it
Well,
breaks
it's
my
not
heart
the only
when I
one.
go by and see that.
I know. Me
I'm
too.
totally against chaining dogs unless it's a vicious dog that, you're trying to contain. But they need to build a fence or, if they want to keep it. And a good fence.
I like having a place for my dogs to run
Some dogs will
too.
just dig out from underneath the fence. And then you're gonna have to do something about that. I had one just recently, last spring. I couldn't keep it inside. He would go over. He'd climb over the gates all the time. And he was a dog that I rescued, and he was already grown. And I was hoping he would adapt to my other dogs and all. But I didn't have him but 5 days because he crawled out 2 different times over the fence. He didn't scratch under. But I had to call Miss Thurio over at Lockhart, and she come and got him and found a good home for it. But,
So what's the gut feeling on tethering now, lad? We've talked it here. What do you think, Mike?
Man, that's a good one. I don't know.
Yeah.
Sonia says don't allow it.
And I'm going to say I agree with Sonia, but we have to have some kind of transition into it, not just bam, here we are. I don't know what that's going to look like.
What about a minimum? Would it be a good, if you had a minimum length?
What about like if we just say this will, let it be known that this is gonna take into effect? It could be either 6 months, it could be, however long to just get the word out, but this is what we're going, this is the way that we're
You think
leading.
it'd be more humane if it had minimum 20 feet? cover? I'm just saying, I'm throwing that out there.
I think it's worth looking into and.
I'm just making, if it's a compromise, if we have people that maybe said, hey, it's gotta be or possibly maybe a run line,
And what is the difference between, I've seen two different ways. You've got a dog chained to a propane tank, period, and that's all they have. Or you've got a line that's, literally
run line would be
50
he
feet between two
caught
trees,
up in the chain.
and they can, have free.
That would be maybe a compromise.
What do you?
State law, there's no difference.
There's no
As
difference.
long as there is a minimum length of the tether, you can tether your dog by state law.
What is that length, Harry?
I don't want to lie to you.
That's all right.
I think I want to say it's like 15 feet.
Yeah, it's not very much.
It's a whole lot shorter than you would think.
But a run line would be more humane.
Because there is also training when it comes to training dogs where you would tether them for training purposes. I don't know.
Well,
I feel like we need to.
That's different.
It's 10 feet. My daughter just looked it up.
Thank you. I was right.
Okay.
10 feet.
So if it's an unsanitary situation, there are other parts of this ordinance that would apply. If it's being tethered and now it's
sitting in its own poop.
with its own feces or it's malnourished or something like that, there are other things that would apply if that's what the concern is with tethering. Often it would be, if it's tethered to the same spot, you have to think after so many days, it's going to become unsanitary.
I think it's worth looking into.
So I've heard we kind of got agreement to migrate tethering out, but do it in a time phase mode, and as part of that preparation for the eliminating it altogether, define in our ordinance either what the state says or put some kind of boundaries
We've had
on
that
it.
discussion. We can be
We can't make somebody
greatly
build a
detailed,
fence.
but we cannot supersede state law. As far
So
as
if they say 10 foot minimum, we could say 20 foot minimum. If we
We could go above it, sure.
I'm just saying you can't. We couldn't go in and say 5 foot minimum.
Right.
We can't go against state law. We can.
Okay.
And I just want to say that, the notion of going to not being able to tether is a big picture, visionary move, if you will, to what I consider to be a better community, a better city. And so that's a hard thing. And so, thank you for really standing that. And I look forward to being able to see better animal situations for sure.
Okay, so that brings us to, we got lots of things to go do. The path forward on this is we will attempt to take these things that we've pretty much got the majority agreeing to and prepare a draft of what a new ordinance would look like. We can immediately go based off of this, rescind give them a ticket, pay a fine, to give them a warning on first running dog.
So do I change Mr. Clinton's to a warning?
Sure, why not?
I would agree, yeah.
There is
A warning.
Mayor Davini, and just one more thing and then I'm done, I promise. I read through all this stuff. And what is our current ordinance about pooper scooping?
Oh, you didn't see, no, not on sidewalk. If it's on sidewalk, you gotta pick it up.
Yeah.
You gotta pick it up. But it specifically
But if
states
it's the
on the
same
sidewalk.
person that's coming by your house all the time and their dog is,
I'm
at
guilty.
the same time.
I'll volunteer.
Take your bags.
I'll take my bag.
Be
So
responsible.
in the extreme, I've seen in rental properties where landowner required DNA to be provided, and they could go after, determine based off the whatever remnants what dog did it. I don't know if we want to go that route, but the question comes at least to that point, because you start wondering, how do you enforce it?
So that segues back to my original statement about having a commission, and I did find a very brief definition. In this particular city, it was established that the Animal Control Commission is charged with providing advisory recommendations to the mayor, city council, and staff on strategies, policies, and programs designed to ensure quality care for animals housed at their animal shelter, but also within the residence, increasing awareness of animals available for adoption, and educating the community regarding humane treatment of animals and other matters related to animals in general. I think this is big enough that we should seriously consider having a commission or committee or whatever you want to.
Put it on the future agenda. Oh, this isn't mine.
I don't think we talk about pooper scooping in here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
And I think that would be,
As someone who has people walk their dogs on my property and for the express purpose of pooping,
You're all in.
I would love to see that.
I say add it in there. We'll find the language.
I agree with that.
And add it in there.
like they were saying, it's the same person that's continuing
Well, maybe that was on the one that
make your report if it happens, and then that way there's something that, that could be the one where the first time it's the warning, the second time it's it, but
Nuisances, urination,
if just being the
defecation.
good neighbor clause isn't working, then maybe we do need to have something about your pet, and you're not being a responsible pet owner picking up after your pet, then something else needs to happen.
Yeah, this was something I guess that y'all two came up with as far as coming up with changes to the ordinances, and this is about some nuisances. Yeah.
Still she does, but she still does it.
It says here, allowing dogs, a dog or other domesticated pet animal to urinate, defecate upon sidewalk, parkway, or any public street, or upon the floor of any common hall, and the entrance, blah, 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 of any public building or public park, and any,
Public property.
or any private property, not the owner, if the owner of the offending animal fails to clean it up, the waste disposal or something. If the owner of the offending animal fails to remediate or clean up.
Okay,
So I think that'd be good.
any more?
That's it.
Okay.
Okay, before we wrap up, and this is, Cindy, you still broadcasting there? This is for the rest of the crew and anybody out there listening. My only comment is that, of course, this is a big issue due to Mary's the recent attack. It was a terrible incident. We all hate that this happened. I wonder if 2 months ago, before all this happened, whether this would have been as high on the priority list of everybody as it is today. And I would dare to say it wasn't. We have an opportunity coming up that we covered at the last council meeting or before. I'm losing track here, but where we talked about Jared is going to start a process where we're going to call out for the citizens of the community to assist in setting the strategy for the next 5 years. There'll be some meetings that are called, and opportunities for citizens to come in and express their opinions on what changes need to be made or would they like to see within Martindale. It's not meant to attack individuals. It's meant to talk about the issues that face Martindale as we grow and as things change around us, as well as what the major concerns of the community are have, and so we can get that written down and understand where we're going. And so I urge everybody to go look for those and participate.
For strategic planning.
For strategic planning stuff. Okay, with that, I'm ready to call for an adjournment if we can get a motion.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passes. Any opposed? Don't know.
Thank you.
As a public service announcement, ideas on branding, that way I can be prepared for our
Yeah.
meeting on